Stars, billions of stars, sparkling over the richest scenic tapestry in the world, Arizona. Arizona, where the daily sunrise, a patina of iridescent gold, orange and blue, unveils a new act of creation. This story begins where the Colorado River enters Arizona, where the Glen Canyon backs up Lake Powell 180 miles. Besides providing water control and storage, this massive dam has created a place of unrivaled beauty and a place for water lovers. Some 60 miles to the south of the Glen Canyon lies the grandest artistic work in all nature, the Grand Canyon. The river, the rain, the sun, the wind, the moving earth have been creating this masterpiece for millions of years. Day to day, the work of these elements is not noticeable. However, the Grand Canyon is now about 10 miles wide, a mile deep, and 135 miles long. It takes a little time to begin to see it. West of the Grand Canyon, in the northwest corner of Arizona, is the Hoover Dam. It backs up Lake Mead, which has 550 miles of shoreline. It's a mecca for fishermen, boat and water sports lovers. At Hoover Dam, the Colorado River, which forms the western boundary of Arizona, runs south some 300 miles to the Gulf of California. Along the way are the Davis Dam, the Parker Dam, the Imperial Dam near Yuma, but the Colorado, with its mighty dams, and the Grand Canyon, is only a border of the scenic empire of Arizona. Monument Valley, where nature anticipated modern sculptors by millions of years, presents a panorama sculptors can never approach. Fishermen dream about a place like the White Mountain Country, and campers find what every outdoorsman looks for: beauty, quiet adventure, and unending scenery. The Petrified Forest. An Indian legend has it that a goddess, cold and hungry, found hundreds of logs on the ground. She killed a rabbit, expecting to cook it, but the logs were too wet to burn. She became enraged, cursed the spot, and turned the logs to stone, so they could never burn. Oh, there's a roadrunner. He's a distinctive and ludicrous-looking bird at the same time. Doesn't fly much, but he sure is speedy afoot. The ancestral stronghold of the Navajos, Canyon de Chelly. The Navajos appeared here about 500 years ago. They came on the scene as their predecessors, the Anasazi, disappeared. It was the Anasazi who built the great cliff houses. This is the White House, one of the largest of 138 major ruins here. Canyon de Chelly, one of Arizona's scenic glories. The San Francisco peaks at Flagstaff rise up 12,700 feet. Many come to see the view, but for the skiers, well, what else is there? When students at Northern Arizona University walk across the campus, they have a shot like this to cool their fevered brains. The Lowell Observatory at Flagstaff is one of the world's leading observatories for the study of Mars and the solar system. The last planet to be discovered in our solar system, Pluto, was located on this telescope. Sunset Crater near Flagstaff, where the Earth belched the year before the Battle of Hastings. When many people think of Arizona, they often think of cowboys and Indians, but rarely of a forest. Here in north central Arizona stands the largest ponderosa pine forest in America. Oak Creek Canyon, where Sedona is located. a lovely singing creek runs through the canyon. Some people call Oak Creek Canyon the Red Rock country. Others say it's the prettiest country in Arizona. Oh, there's Speedy again. It doesn't make much difference what anybody says about it. All you have to do is look at it. And you can look at it for a lifetime and never see it all. The Red Rock country at Oak Creek. There are many famous mines in Arizona, but the most famous of them all is one that is lost. The legendary Lost Dutchman mine located in the Superstition Mountains, 36 miles east of Phoenix. It's said to be located within the shadow of its famous landmark, Weaver's Needle. In this century, over 50 persons have met violent death searching for this mine. Now here's an authentic, free map of the location of the Lost Dutchman mine. Good luck. The quest for gold, fired by shiploads of silver and gold that Cortez and Pizarro took to Spain from the Aztec and Peruvian nations, led the conquistadors into the Southwest. In their search for the 7 cities of Cibola and El Dorado, they rode their horses right over the precious metal. But they did meet a lot of Indians. Other men were to come later to find the gold and the silver and the copper. Arizona now produces over half the nation's copper. It's mined from great open pits like this one at Morenci, these at Globe in Miami, Tucson, and Ajo. There are others. Here in the great converter aisle in the copper smelter, you see what it's all about. Pure molten copper spewing in a stream like water from a hose. If Coronado could see this, he would probably ride his horse over a cliff. The first missionary in Arizona, Father Kino, introduced beef cattle to the Indians in 1687. It was to become, and is, a great industry in the Southwest. The century-old Long Meadow Ranch at Prescott, a spread of over 10,000 acres, is an example of modern ranching methods. Champion patriarchs like this produce juicy, tender offsprings like this. Oh, there's an antelope and her twin babies. He has to go through a little preparatory course while growing up. But finally, he's on his way to market.
Spied a young cowboy all riding alone. Hat was turned down and his spurs were a-jingling. As I rode by, he was singing this song. Whoopie-tie-ho, get along, little doggies. It's your misfortune and none of
And here's Dogie's bag. However, more little doggies end up lowly hot dog than in any other form of meat. Tombstone, where the men were men and the women were wild. The home of the shootout, and where would Hollywood be without the shootout? In 1877, prospector Ed Shetland discovered the Tombstone lode and struck it rich, and the news spread like wildfire. It brought hordes of gunmen, gamblers, miners, and horse thieves. Within a year, Tombstone had become the most famous and infamous town in the West. These people were nothing if not direct. In the famous graveyard, Boot Hill, for instance, here lies Lester Moore, 4 slugs from a .44, no less, no more. And here lies poor George Johnson, hanged by mistake. Here is the OK Corral, where the McLowrys, the Clantons, and the Earps shot it out in the most famous gunfight in southwestern history. The Birdcage Theater and Dance Hall was the most notorious night spot of the West. The Crystal Palace, where travelers still repair for a little restorative. Tombstone, the town too tough to die, is now a National Historical Landmark. In 1864, Prescott became the first territorial capital of Arizona. The quest for gold brought the first settlers to Prescott. Mr. A.H. Peebles picked up $7,000 worth of gold nuggets one morning before breakfast. By 1873, there were some 7,300 recorded gold mines here. Later, Prescott was to become the center of a great cattle ranching country. The oldest continuous rodeo in America began here on July 4th in 1888. In modern times, Prescott produced a famous American, Fiorello LaGuardia, and also served as the launching pad for the various political campaigns of an Arizona senator. Jerome, located on the slope of Cleopatra Mountain, was named for Eugene Jerome, cousin of Sir Winston Churchill. Jerome, in 70 years, produced $1 billion worth of copper, gold, and silver. It's now a ghost town with a population of about 300, where it once had 15,000. The whole town is sliding downhill. This jail has traveled 225 feet from its original location. The once luxurious Little Daisy Hotel. The Douglas Memorial Mining Museum, once the mansion of James Douglas, who developed the Verde Extension Mine into a bonanza. And here are the reasons for Jerome: the Big Pit Mine and the Verde Extension Mine. They disgorged $1 billion. Jerome is a fabulous town to explore, and while its ore may be gone, it still has a great view of the Verde Valley. North of Tucson is Picacho Peak, the site of the only Civil War skirmish fought in Arizona. The venerable and beautiful city of Tucson was given its name by ancient Indians. People have lived in Tucson since 900 A.D., making it one of the oldest inhabited places in America. These ancients lived on the fertile soil along the Santa Cruz River. In 1776, the Spanish built the Royal Presidio. This walled fortress was the heart of defense in this area for nearly 100 years against the savage Apache. This fortress, on at least 2 occasions, withstood the attacks of 1,000 Apaches. Old Tucson was recreated for the film Arizona. Old Tucson was a dangerous and lusty place. A journalist of the time, J. Ross Brown, wrote, "Tucson was a place of resort for traders, speculators, gamblers, horse thieves, murderers, and vagrant politicians. Men who were no longer permitted to live in California found the climate of Tucson congenial to their health." The University of Arizona was established at Tucson in 1885. The university is famous for its work in mining, agriculture, and archaeology. The National Observatory is located 56 miles southwest of Tucson atop Kitt Peak, site of the world's largest solar telescope. The history of Tucson is deeply etched in its distinctive architecture. The influence of the Indians, Mexicans, and Spaniards dominates the architecture of the city. And in the spring of each year, along with the bloom of the cactus, the ghosts of the past are revisited on the city when the vaqueros and the conquistadors ride again, this time down Stone Avenue. 2 glorious structures of the past near Tucson are the missions founded by the Jesuit priest Father Kino. The mission at Tumacacori started in 1690, and the mission San Javier del Bac established in 1700. It is said to be the finest example of mission architecture in our country. Central Arizona is a semi-desert region enjoying about 7 inches annual rainfall. Yet it has one of the most stable water supply systems in the world. How this came to pass reads like a fairy story. 200 years before Christ, an ancient people known as the Hohokam mysteriously appeared in central Arizona and farmed the fertile soil of the great desert by irrigating their lands from the Salt River. They built over 125 miles of canals, and our modern canals here and there follow the ancient ones. They cultivated squash, corn, cotton, and beans. Now, where these people came from, no one knows. Some say they came across the Bering Straits, and just as mysteriously as they came, they disappeared about 1400 A.D. No one knows why. Some say too little water, some say too much water, but they left their mark. As the white man developed the West, lured by the riches of the mines and pasture and farmland, he gravitated to the fertile Valley of the Sun, where the Hohokam once lived. This fellow's not a hippie. He's Jack Swilling, a deserter from the Confederate Army that had fought in Arizona, a restless visionary who became intrigued by the idea of cultivating the fertile land of the Valley of the Sun by cleaning out the old Indian canals and building a brush dam across the Salt River as they had done. In 1867, he organized the Swilling Irrigation Canal Company, and that winter, water was flowing to fields where the Indians had once farmed and was now producing barley, sweet potatoes, and pumpkin. On seeing this sight, a member of the Swilling Irrigation Canal Company, an Englishman named Darrell Dupa, recalled the legend of the mythical phoenix bird and so gave Phoenix its name. But the brush dam didn't work too well. It was either too much water or too little. Although by 1888, more than 100,000 acres were under cultivation. These pioneers realized that a storage dam would have to be built across the Salt River to store the excess water when the river flowed at flood stage, which water would be released during the summer or during drought conditions. President Theodore Roosevelt recognized that such a reclamation program would have to be financed by the federal government. In 1902, the United States enacted a federal reclamation project. The Salt River Valley Water Users Association was incorporated into the laws of the Territory of Arizona in 1903 for the benefit of the landowners who would be served by the project. The land within the project was put up as security for the money to be borrowed from the federal government. Thus was created the first reclamation project in the United States. Work began on the Theodore Roosevelt Dam in 1905, and it was completed in 1911. Since then, as the area grew and prospered, more dams were to be built to conserve and to control the water from a watershed. Today, the dams on the Salt River are the Theodore Roosevelt, the Horse Mesa, the Mormon Flat, the Stewart Mountain, and Granite Reef Diversion Dam. Two other dams located on the Verde River, which joins the Salt River above Phoenix, are the Horseshoe and the Bartlett. This great water conservation system today provides irrigation water for 250,000 acres of fertile soil and for the residents of Phoenix. These dams, canals, laterals, and ditches carry the stuff that life is built on in the desert, water. Now, great irrigated fields cover hundreds of miles. Nearly everything is grown here. Cotton, vegetables, grain, citrus, flowers, lovely flowers, a garden in the desert. A remarkable city has grown here too. When the traveler sees this mountain, he knows he's there. Camelback Mountain stands near the middle of the Valley of the Sun, with all the majesty of the Sphinx at Giza. And at the camel's head kneels the praying monk. Modern Phoenix has remained a sprawling, one-story western city. It does have several jewel-like clusters of multi-story buildings, like the Financial Center, or this group of buildings in the Rosenzweig Center, which combine office and convention facilities. They are not very tall buildings by today's standards, but that lets the sun get down so the flowers can grow. Cattle, mining, and farming were the big economic guns in Arizona until electronic manufacturing recently took the lead. The big scene in the valley has always been outdoor living and recreation. The sunny winters make it a natural playground. Golf is a year-round sport, and the valley has over 45 courses. Everyone loves water, and private pools are everywhere. The cookout and swim party belong in our warm climate. Sports aficionados have it all. Professional hockey, professional basketball, and the Phoenix Giants playing in the Pacific Coast League. Our warm weather was made for baseball, and many major league teams spend the springs here. And for the racing fans, there are various kinds of automobile racing and the sport of kings. The Herd Museum of Indian Art, the Phoenix Art Museum, the Phoenix Symphony in rehearsal. Children, young and old, and exotic animals trade stares. And partner, welcome to Scottsdale, the West's most western town. Many business establishments of an earlier era are still going strong. Now, Speedy, you get. Speedy, you stop that. That's better. Scottsdale's Main Street. Scottsdale, an old farm community, is now a colorful, loose, and friendly place where you enjoy famous restaurants or roam through shops that offer original designs and styles of jewelry, leather goods, and women's fashions. The architecture belongs to this country. During the annual Scottsdale Prada del Sol Rodeo, everybody gets into the act, even the clowns. Many travelers come here just for a dining holiday in the famous restaurants. For the elegant mood, there's the posh Mountain Shadows Resort Hotel. For the barefoot mood, there's the Blue Goat. For folksy fun and steaks and beans, there are those stomping western cowboy places, Pinnacle Peak and Reata Pass. And schoolboys with their shining morning faces creeping unwillingly toward school. The campus of the Arizona State University at Tempe. The university is proud of its Gamage Auditorium, the only public building in the state by Frank Lloyd Wright, even though he lived here for some 20 years. He's considered by many to be the greatest architect that America has produced. This is Sun City. It's America's most famous resort retirement community. Del E. Webb, the creator of Sun City. Sun City is located just west of Phoenix. Most of Arizona can be reached from Sun City in 4 hours or less by car. Where cotton was farmed in 1960, there now stands the Walter O. Boswell Memorial Hospital and a shimmering blue freshwater lake providing home sites, fishing, boating, and scenic beauty for Sun citizens. What makes Sun City so appealing? Well, it's located in one of the sunniest climates in the world. And it's a very beautiful and interesting place, which is why tourists love it. But its greatest appeal to retired people are all the things there are to do and companionship. Retired people in a regular neighborhood oftentimes lack friends. Their children grow up and their careers take them away. Old business friendships are severed by retirement. Many personal friends move to milder climates. Consequently, retired people frequently are lonesome. In Sun City, they can have all the friends they want, and they can do almost anything they please, take up old interests or create new ones. Swimming, golfing, boating, fishing, painting, lawn bowling. Speedy, if you don't vamoose, I'm going to get a rock. Shuffleboard, bicycling, tennis, theater arts, billiards, woodworking, dancing. And all the recreational centers have complete arts and crafts facilities. Well, partners, the best way to see Arizona and Sun City is to visit here. And you are welcome anytime. And partners, until you've seen an Arizona sunset, you ain't seen nothing. Uh-oh, where's that rock? Partners, come on out and see us.